Timer mode is just a way to tell your air conditioner to turn itself on or off at a set time without you walking over and touching the remote. That is really the whole feature. It is not doing anything clever to the air. It is not making the room colder or cooling it any faster. It is just a schedule for when the unit runs. And the part almost nobody figures out is this. There are two timers hiding behind that one button, an on timer and an off timer, and most people only ever use one of them. The off timer is the one you already know. The unit is running, you set it to shut off in a few hours, and it turns itself off while you are asleep or out of the house. That is the bedtime timer, and that one earns its keep. The on timer is the half people forget is even there. The unit is off right now, and you set it to start itself later, so you walk into a cool room instead of a hot one, or you wake up to a bedroom that is already comfortable. It is the same button doing the opposite job. On a lot of units, you can set both at once, so it kicks on in 3 hours, runs for 4, and shuts off on its own. One mix-up is worth clearing up first, because it causes half the confusion around this. Timer mode is not sleep mode. People use the two words like they mean the same thing, and they are not even close. Sleep mode changes how the AC runs while it is on. It slowly nudges the temperature up a degree or two every couple of hours, drops the fan speed so the unit runs quieter, and on a lot of machines it just shuts off after around 7 hours. Timer mode does not touch any of that. It does not care about temperature or fan speed at all. The only thing it decides is whether the unit is on or off at a given moment. You can actually run both together, sleep mode handling the comfort, and off timer sitting there as a backstop, but they are two different features doing two separate jobs. The next part is where the real confusion lives, and it is the actual answer to why an AC comes on at the wrong time. There are two kinds of timer out there. The simple one is a countdown. You tell it to turn off in 3 hours, and it counts down from the second you press the button. Most window units and portable units work this way, and there is nothing to get wrong because no clock is involved. The other kind runs off an actual time of day. You tell it to turn on at 6, and the unit runs off its own internal clock. That is common on newer mini splits and smart units, and that setup has a trap almost nobody warns you about. The clock does not survive a power outage. The power blinks for 1 second, the clock resets, and now every timer you set fires at the wrong hour because the unit thinks it is a completely different time than it really is. If your AC keeps switching on at strange times, that is almost always the reason, so go and reset the clock. There is an easy way to tell which kind you have. Look at the display when you set it. A number of hours counting down is the countdown type. An actual time like 10 at night means it runs off the clock, and that clock has to be right. So when do you actually reach for any of this? The off timer at night is the obvious one. Set the AC how you like it at bedtime. Set the off timer for 2 to 4 hours, and it cools you down while you fall asleep, then shuts off before you wake up shivering at 2 in the morning. The on timer is for arriving somewhere. If you get home around the same time most days, set it to kick on 15 or 20 minutes before you walk in, and leave it off while you are gone, so you are not paying to cool an empty house all afternoon. The same trick works for mornings, where you start the bedroom half an hour before the alarm goes off. And this is where I will say something a little blunt. For most people, that nighttime off timer is the only part of this they will ever touch. And that is fine, because it fixes the most annoying problem of the bunch. But the on timer is the one that can actually save you money, and it is worth understanding why. Saving electricity gets thrown around a lot with this feature, so when I checked what the power companies and the energy researchers actually claim, the real story turned out to be narrower than the hype. If your utility charges more during peak hours, usually late afternoon into the evening, you can use the on timer to pre-cool the house earlier in the day when power is cheaper, then coast through the expensive stretch. The national lab that studies this found that a tight, well-insulated home could dodge almost all of its peak hour cooling that way and cut what it spends staying cold by about a third. That only works if you are actually on a time of use rate though. If you pay one flat price no matter the hour, shifting when you cool does not save you a dime on its own. There is a real downside to leaning on a timer, and it is worth hearing before you build your whole summer around one. A timer runs on the clock, not on whether the room is actually hot. So if your house heats up fast, shutting the AC completely off for hours and then cooling the whole place back down from scratch can cost you more than just holding a slightly higher temperature the entire time. For a lot of homes, bumping the thermostat up a few degrees while you are out beats a full shutoff and a big recovery later. The timer is a dumb schedule. It runs whether the room needs it or not, which brings up the thing people are actually frustrated about. A basic timer is one shot. You set it, it fires one time, and tomorrow you have to set the whole thing over again. There is no off at 8 every morning, on at 5 every evening baked into most units. If that daily set and forget schedule is what you actually want, you have a few options. The clean one is a unit that has weekly scheduling or a phone app built in, which is worth looking for if you are shopping for a new one. For a plain window unit, a smart plug can work, but only if the AC turns itself back on after losing power, because a lot of them wake up off or in standby, and then the plug does you no good. The other route is a smart AC controller, a little device that copies your remote signal and adds real schedules and phone control to an otherwise dumb unit. And for a central system, a smart thermostat does all of this by temperature, which is the better tool if what you really want is for the AC to run only when it is actually needed. Setting the timer itself is quick, though the exact buttons change from remote to remote. You press the timer button, use the arrows to dial in the hours or the time, and hit set. One tip saves a lot of grief here. After you set it, check that the little timer icon and the time actually show up on the display. If you do not see them sitting there, it did not save, and you will usually find that out at the worst possible moment. So that little timer button is not the mystery it looks like. Tonight, set an off timer so you are not fighting the cold at sunrise. And if you are on one of those time of use power plans this summer, treat the on timer as your quiet money saver, pre-cooling the house before the afternoon rates hit, and letting it ride through the pricey hours. The smart plug, the AC controller, and a solid thermostat that make all of this hands-off are linked below.